it'll be goodbye and toodaloo for 6 weeks. Meantime, we get to sort of hunker down on the backside of Copa and, of course, Major League Baseball. The Orioles return home this weekend to take on the Toronto Blue Jays, and here to talk all things Major League Baseball, one of our defending champions and a guy we love having on the program. He is the longtime USA Today sports Major League Baseball columnist, and he's been all over the country from Arizona to San Diego and San Francisco, out on the West Coast. We welcome Bob Nightingale back to the program. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at @BNightingale. Bob, how many times have you and I got together in June where the Orioles are battling teams like the Red Sox and the Blue Jays for first place? It feels nice to be in a real pennant race here in June, my man.
Yeah, it's just they're a fun team to watch for sure. You know, the beauty about the Orioles, even with their flaws, they're built very similar to the Blue Jays and the Red Sox. Both have great offenses, or all three do, in what pitching is concerned. So yeah, it should be a fun summer out there.
All right.
Like the old Blake Street Palmer days back with the Rockies.
All of these teams have flaws, right? And that's the one thing we would talk about, and it's all really on the back end of their starting pitching. Who's going to be the third, the fourth, the fifth? I'm not sure that any of these teams are happy with the back end. I mean, Blue Jays would like to get more out of all their guys. Maybe they have the right guys. With the Orioles and the Red Sox, it feels like they're changing chairs out on the deck every couple of weeks, and certainly Gallardo in now for the Orioles. They spent a lot of money on him. I mean, everybody else sort of passed on him, Bob, and maybe this is why, right?
Yeah, I mean, the draft pick compensation was a big factor. It wasn't like, I don't think people saw this coming. I did ask them, hey, why don't you bring him back? And their thing was, there's so many base runners all the time. You know, it's just like you never have those clean innings. So they just, they worked around that way. But I think it's more, the draft pick compensation than actually teams thinking, okay, this guy's going to struggle this year.
Bob Nightingale joining us here from USA Today. All right, so for the bottom end of this rotation, we're not sure whether Gosman's on the top or the bottom. Pitch better than his record, not Wednesday night notwithstanding, where it really wasn't a very good effort at Fenway Park. But he is really a huge question mark for them. Tillman on the side of we really need and expect good things out of him. Gosman will be the next guy in line because clearly Wright, Wilson, these guys are a box of chocolates. And, given his druthers, Showalter probably wouldn't have these guys in the big leagues right now.
Yeah, and they need another starter for in all summer. It's one thing to be around for a couple of months. It's such a long season, and teams get beat up. That's why there's never any flukes in baseball because of the lengthy season. But yeah, for them to have a real chance, I think they need at least one starter, if not two, to help them out.
Well, and Jimenez was supposed to be a guy that was going to get better this year. He certainly was better last year than he was in 14. Shocked to see that experiment completely blow up and to have Buck go get him in the first inning the other day. Yeah,
it's a real shame, and we're seeing that more and more. You saw that with the Anibal Sanchez at Tigers. Not being able to do that, and now he's back in the bullpen. And of course, in Boston with Buck Holmes and Joe Kelly. So it seems like it's happening more and more now.
Well, especially when you have that much money invested. I remember the day they signed Jimenez. It was 4 years, $48 million. I said, do you think he's going to have 48 wins in 4 years? Is he really going to win 12 games a year for this team over 4 years? And that certainly hasn't held up well. And, obviously the Red Sox, and we saw David Price the other day, not the results they were looking for. But these teams are still, battling over first place. So I don't know that there's a lot of quibbling about all this. But the best players need to be better. And that's one part of the Red Sox, especially seeing their hitting. I don't know how they could hit the ball any better than they have over the first 60, 90 days of the season.
Yeah, the thing about the Red Sox is they're such a versatile lineup, and they're so athletic. Of the three teams, Red Sox, Blue Jays, Orioles, that's the one team you don't see them going in a prolonged slump, just because I think it's they can put the ball in play. They're not nearly as strikeout prone as the other two ball clubs. And they play some terrific defense.
We'll get back to the American League in a minute, but I want to move over to the National League, and I know you've been traveling around. I find the Ichiro-Pete Rose story to be interesting, and I know you've covered every angle of Pete Rose there is in your quarter century of watching baseball and covering baseball. But this question about which league or whatever, I've found Ichiro to be my favorite player of the, since Tony Gwynn went away and George Brett and the kids that when I was a kid, the guys I grew up with, someone that's my own contemporary. I've loved watching Ichiro. I think he's sort of quietly faded into anonymity, really, in Miami, and now makes his way back into the news at this point. I knew it wouldn't take Pete Rose 5 minutes to dismiss it, and certain sides have dismissed it. But, we've seen a really special career come to life here in America when Ichiro came over, and it certainly has opened the doors for a lot of players, from that part of the world to come over and have success.
Yeah, I mean, this guy is just a terrific talent. And, talking to Pete Rose, I know Pete Rose goes, "We're going to do next," count his high school hit. The fact is, Japanese baseball is very good. It's above AAA, below major leagues. And the fact of the matter is, if Ichiro had started his entire career and played in major leagues, I'm sure he would have broken Rose's record or be right there in the threshold. And the guy's, proved he can do it. He's about to get 3,000 hits, by July, even though he spent his first 9 years in Japan.
Him hanging on and continuing to play, and it's one thing to go to New York where you can win. I don't think anybody really believed that the Marlins are going to be in the postseason this year. I don't know how many teams would give him a job at this point. But, why is he still playing? I mean, you're chasing around. Is it really about this 3,000 hit chase? I mean, he's always seemed like a guy that's enjoyed playing baseball, but this has been a long time to be away from his homeland, and he certainly has made tons of money, and the winning, thing has sort of come and gone for him, right?
Well, he just absolutely loves the game. I mean, right now he's getting about 350. I mean, this guy is playing at all-star caliber level. They have three very good outfielders out there, so he's a fourth outfielder. But he talks about playing the game until he's 50, and certainly looks like he can do it. I mean, he's been absolutely terrific. That last road trip they had to Minnesota, Arizona, San Diego, I think he hit close to 500.
Well, they're in a tough spot in that National League East, and certainly the Nationals have poured it on, and I saw Jason Worth's antics on Wednesday night as well. They're pretty good, and they were supposed to be really good last year, and on the back end of all of that disappointment, all of those problems last year, they're going to give the Cubs a run for their money, and certainly did earlier this week, and the Cubs were looking invincible to so many people for a period of time. And as a Washington Capitals fan, Bob, I'm going to be telling the Cubs people all year, doesn't mean anything. You better hope Arrieta goes out there and wins Game 1 in October, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, they're a very good team. Anything can happen in the postseason. I mean, we see the San Francisco Giants. Once October rolls around, they're like a machine. The way they, just roll past people and get to the World Series. If I'm the Cubs, I'm a little worried about that bullpen. And they've done a nice job, but bullpen is so key come October. So I think they'll be all in on the Yankees guys trying to get Aroldis Chapman or Andrew Miller or Adeline Betances.
Well, as much as the Cubs had talked about the all-time record and trying to win 120 games and all of that, I would beware that the Nationals probably aren't going anywhere. And the Nationals also are entering a part of their schedule where there are some really bad teams in the National League. I mean, we see mostly the American League over here, Bob, and you can say what you want about the Yankees or the Rays, but I'd much rather be seeing the Braves and the Phillies and the Brewers and the Reds and the Padres. And I know everybody's going to beat up on the Padres before it's all over with. You were out there doing a piece on the Padres as well and what they've done with this sell-off and the problems they're having. They're not that far out of it, but every move they've made where they've spent money has been the wrong move, and at least it looks like the right move that they peddled Shields over to Chicago and got rid of him, right?
Well, they're going to start dumping guys. I mean, they were all in last year and didn't work. So they're trying to trade Matt Kemp, Amy who would take him, Melvin Upton. They got the pitcher Andrew Cash, Jay, the outfielder. So they're going to just keep moving parts and try to rebuild this thing by being respectable. But you're right. There's so many bad teams in the National League. That's why the Cubs could win 115 games or 118, something like that. just because you're talking about 6 or 7 teams that are not only bad but really not trying to win. So we've never seen such a imbalance in probably generations in this league.
I don't know that the Mets can win the division, but they can certainly win their share of games. And I think for them, for any team that gets beaten up in the beginning of the year, and hey, the Orioles are waiting on O'Day, waiting for Gallardo, waiting for Hardy, teams that are waiting for key players, have to think, well, we'll be at our best in October. It's not. Especially with all these wild cards hanging around. I mean, if you wind up playing 540, 550 ball, you're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. And once you get in, the Cubs showed last year, just win that one wild card game, you're fine. So if you have that ace type of pitcher, and even get in as a wild card, and certainly the Mets have a number of ace type pitchers, they should be fine. I don't think they'll win the division either. I think the Nationals will eventually just run away with this thing.
I think the Texas Rangers have got to be considered one of these, huge upstarts from the time they made that deal last summer for Cole Hamels. Everybody thought, well, they're doing that for next year. The loss of Darvish is obviously enormous for them, but him coming back and the promise of him coming back seemed to keep them going, and they're playing 600 ball without him.
Yeah, and they went back in the deal. This guy really doesn't pitch unless he's feeling 100%, and so he could be out for a while. And I think the Rangers are so good, easily the best team in the American League, right there with the Cubs as far as being the best teams in baseball. They can take their time with Darvish, bring him back in August or so, just make sure that he's right for the postseason. But this is a very, very dangerous team.
Orioles have the Blue Jays this weekend, Bob, and we've seen enough of them, and certainly, had the tail put between the legs last weekend up there in Canada. The way they've hit the ball last year, I talked to a lot of people that expected that again this year. I think it was a kind of a high expectation. It certainly feels as though the ebb of the season would have already have happened, that they have to hit the ball better than they have. Tulowitzki and some of these other guys not really contributing what you would have expected them to contribute, and even hitting for average. It feels to me like their bats will heat up. The question, I think, is going to be for the back end of their starting five as well, and what they can get out of Stroman, who I think they had higher expectations for than any of these guys. And as much as the Happ thing was maligned in the offseason, and the Orioles won't see him this weekend, and they won't see Estrada this weekend either, it's amazing that it's worked out okay for them, and they're certainly in a great position that if they can hit the ball half as well as they did last year down the stretch, that I think they're the team to watch over the next 60 days.
Yeah, I mean, I still like Boston in the division. I think the best team. But you're right. I mean, Tulowitzki can't be swinging that bad. You believe Bautista's and Encarnacion's batting average will go higher. Stroman's been, not great, but he's been fine. It's just, Aaron Sanchez, spectacular at times. So a very good team, and it certainly should be fun. I mean, there's no reason in the world Orioles, Red Sox, and Blue Jays can't go to September, separating within 5 games.
Wouldn't that be nice? A little AL East, three-way, everybody beating everybody up, scoreboard watching. I mean, Bob, again, I'm in Baltimore. We don't get that action around here often, so I don't take it for granted, man. I've known you a long time. I've only known you through a handful of pennant races, man.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great to see that back again. I don't see the Yankees hanging around. I think they're too old. Too much has to go right. But yeah, I mean, to have Baltimore back in the race, and with Boston, just those two teams alone, it'd be a very fun fall and late summer.
Well, the Yankees have arrived in last place finally. I think we all expected this before last year. Do you think they're going to sell? I mean, they certainly have sellable parts. They are one of those teams that would have a couple of guys that teams would take on a little money and send them a little something. But I would think that's a hard thing to pitch to your fan base in New York, and I guess there's a reason it hasn't happened in a quarter of a century, right?
Yeah, last time they sold off was 1989. I mean, it's been that long. They traded away Ricky Henderson and Mike Tagliarulo. Yeah, I think they're smart about it, though. And to be smart, you got to rebuild. And there's no better people trading away that bullpen. Particularly with Miller and Chapman. I expect both those guys to be gone.
I would love Andrew Miller back. I'm sure it'll, last time it cost us Rodriguez, and we have to see him every time we go to Boston. So, hey, Bob, great having you on, man. I'm going to send everybody out to Twitter to say hello, as well as USA Today. And, hey, if the Orioles keep playing well, I'm sure you'll make your way to Baltimore before it's all over with.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to it, sir.
I owe you a crab cake and a beer. Appreciate you, Bob.
Okay, sounds great.
You got it. Bob Nightingale, USA Today Sports Major League Baseball columnist. You can follow his journey at B Nightingale. That's NIGHTENGALE out on Twitter. You can find me in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. You can also find us stream as well as YouTube on our WNS TV channel. We're now video, and you can see my ugly mug. I got to get some non-reflective reading glasses since I've gone to the reading glass. I would have been prettier 3 years ago before my eyes went post 45 on me. But we'll get to that. We're going to have some fun around here, and I'm on at all various points of the day. So if you follow me on Facebook or follow us out on our Twitter, we tweet out when we're live, and stop by, say hello, throw us a note, throw something into the thread below us, and you can always find us in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We come at you crystal clear at 7 a.m. each and every morning in your email inbox, courtesy of Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. We present our morning newspaper. That's free of charge. Sign up at WNST.net. And while you're there, make sure you check off the box for the text service as well. That is our best service. Breaking news happens, ups and downs, Ravens, Orioles, it all comes to you first on the WNST text service. That's brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis is here on Thursday driving you home as well. I'm around all weekend. You can always find me nasty at WNST.net, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Snapchat, anywhere that you inhabit mobile, we're there with you. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.